Katha Shravanam, a small yet meaningful offering from Delta to rekindle a fading habit. The quiet art of listening to stories, especially in young, curious minds. Katha Shravanam. Katha is not merely a story, it is the courage to see the forest beyond the trees, to rise above trivial details, and touch the larger purpose, the deeper idea, the living concept beneath the words. Sravanam is more than hearing, it is listening with intent, with patience, with presence, allowing meaning to unfold gently within. So now, leave behind the noise of haste and open the doors of imagination. Listen as Mr. Bhaskar Prasad leads you into a different world where time itself becomes a tale. The man who sold time. The man who sold time. Let us lift our imagination to newer heights and rediscover the joy of listening, the way stories were meant to be heard.
The man who sold time in Varangal. In Varangal, where stone walls still remember Kakatiya kings, where the wind smells of dust, jasmine, and rain, and where temple bells argue gently with traffic horns, there once lived a man who sold time. His name was Raghuveer Reddy. Every evening at exactly 5 o'clock, when the sun tilted gold over the 1,000-pillar temple, Raghuveer pushed his wooden cart into the plaza. The cart looked ordinary, cracked wheels, faded blue paint, but inside were hundreds of tiny glass bottles filled with shimmering sand, each one glowing like a trapped evening. Each bottle was labeled in his careful handwriting. 5 minutes of dhairyam, courage. 10 minutes of marupu, forgetting. 1 hour of shanti, peace. 30 seconds of kopam, rage. 2 minutes to say tata, goodbye. Visitors laughed, but locals didn't, because Raghuveer had once lost all the time in the world. How did Raghuveer lose time? Before he sold time, Raghuveer repaired it. He was a clockmaker. He fixed wall clocks in tea shops, wristwatches dropped in wells, and temple bells that had forgotten how to ring. His shop stood in a narrow lane near Varangal fort, and in that shop worked Madhuravani, whose voice sounded like a veena being tuned at dawn, and whose eyes could see straight through excuses. They were young, they were poor, they were in love the way only people with nothing else can. At night, they sat on the fort wall, dangling their legs, counting trains by sound, dreaming of cities they had never seen. One evening, during the Bonalu festival, with drums shaking the air and fire lamps floating skywards, Madhuravani told him she was leaving. "I'm going off to America to work for my cousin," she said. "There is work, real work, real money, real life." Raghuveer laughed too quickly. "But Varangal is real." She shook her head. "No, Varangal is memory." She kissed his cheek once, quick, like someone stealing fire, and walked into the crowd. Drums swallowed his voice. Raghuveer didn't follow. He didn't speak. He couldn't move. That was the night Raghuveer lost all his time. The clocks that wouldn't move. After Madhuravani left, every clock Raghuveer touched froze at 5 hours past pi time, 8:14, 8:14 p.m. The exact moment she turned away from him. He cleaned them, he begged them, he prayed over them, but nothing moved. Desperate, Raghuveer wandered the old city until he met an ancient woman sitting on the temple steps, wrapped in a red sari that looked older than the fort itself. She said, "You broke your own time, but can it be fixed?" He whispered. She smiled without teeth. "Only if you learn to sell what you lost." Bottling time. She taught him how to collect time, the way farmers collect rain. You had to listen, you had to wait, you had to feel. At first, Raghuveer could only gather broken things, seconds of regret, minutes of shame, hours of longing. He poured them into bottles. And people came. A woman brought 3 minutes of courage and finally could leave her drunk, cheating, and abusive husband. A boy bought 5 minutes of focus and passed the JE main test that qualified him for NIT and changed his family's future. An old man bought 2 minutes to say bye bye, goodbye, and spoke to his dead wife for the first time in years. Raghuveer didn't get rich, but he got useful. And in Varangal, being useful is almost as good as being cherished. The girl with yellow bangles. One afternoon, a girl stopped at his cart. She couldn't have been more than 12. She wore bright yellow bangles and carried a sketchbook under her arm. "Do you sell time for drawing?" she asked. Raghuveer searched his bottles. Finally, he handed her one that was labeled 20 minutes of quiet joy. She opened it, and for 20 minutes the plaza disappeared for her. She drew temples floating in clouds, women with rivers for hair, and men who carried clocks instead of hearts. When she finished, she smiled, beamed. "Thank you, Anna." And Raghuveer realized he had just sold hope disguised as time. The man from Texas. Years passed. One day, a man in a grey t-shirt stood before Raghuveer's cart. His thinning hair was streaked with grey and white. His eyes were tired but searching. "I'm looking for Madhuravani," he said. Raghuveer felt the old wound reopen. "She doesn't come here anymore," Raghuveer replied, a bit sharply. The man swallowed. "She died. She died last week in Dallas, Texas." Raghuveer's chest folded inward. "She kept your photo in her purse. Every one of them," the man added. "I am her son." Silence stood between them like a wall. "She talked about you," the son said. "She said, you are the man she left, but you are the man she could never escape." Raghuveer whispered, "Did she regret it?" The man did not answer. Instead, he pointed to the bottles. "Can you sell me time?" Raghuveer searched for a bottle that he had never sold before. It was dusty. It read, 1 hour of the past. The hour that changed everything. When the man opened the bottle, the plaza vanished. He stood in a small Dallas apartment. Madhuravani sat by the window, older, tired, but still beautiful. He spoke to her. She cried. She said the things she had never said to anyone. When the hour ended, the man collapsed into tears on the plaza. Raghuveer held him tight. And for the first time since that festival night, Raghuveer felt time move inside him again. The last bottle. That evening, Raghuveer packed his cart early. He walked to the lake near Varangal fort. He took out the last bottle, the one he had never dared to open. It read, 10 minutes of forgiveness. Raghuveer opened it, and in those 10 minutes, he forgave Madhuravani for leaving. He forgave himself for staying. He forgave time for being so cruel. And when the bottle emptied, the water kept breathing. The clocks of Varangal began to tick for him again. Epilogue. They say Raghuveer stopped selling time after that. Instead, he began repairing watches again. But sometimes on quiet evenings, you can still find old bottles half buried in the dust near the temple steps. And if you listen carefully, you might hear a goodbye, a laugh, and a second chance. Thank you.